Welcome and thank you for joining today's Elevate and Empower event, where we will hear from ELP and LEAD graduates. That is the Emerging Leaders Program and the Leadership Enhancement and Development Program. My name's Elizabeth Pravat, and I will be your technical producer for today's event. Additionally, you may see me in the chat responding to questions and helping you along the way. So if you do run into any issues throughout today's session, feel free to reach out to me via Teams. But before we get into the content, I'd like to go over a couple of housekeeping items. Today's event is being recorded, and your microphone was muted by default when you entered the meeting, but you are encouraged to type comments and questions into the chat. And once again, I will be monitoring those and responding to them as necessary. Feel free to also use the reaction buttons. Live captioning is enabled. And if you want to access this feature, you can click the More Actions button, which is the three dots at the top of the screen. Then click on Language and Speech, select Turn on Live Captions, select English, and confirm. And finally, your feedback is very important to us. So at the conclusion of today's event, I will be sending out a link to collect your feedback, and we would love to hear what you think. And at this time, I would like to introduce our moderator for today's panel, Mr. Jonathan Stoops, who is a Learning Management Officer with the Office of Human Capital Services. Mr. Stoops, thank you so much for your time today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Appreciate it. Thank you guys for joining us for today's panel, where we're going to chat with graduates from our Emerging Leaders Program, or more commonly known as ELP, and our Leadership Enhancement and Development Program, or LEAD. These are very popular programs, very competitive programs, and today's session is really about hearing about the experiences that folks have had going through these programs. Before we meet our panel members, I'd like to provide a little bit of information about the programs and their target audiences. And while our team right now, we're preparing to launch our FY26 programs. At this point, we don't have specific dates. Funding is not set, budgets are in flux. So, while that's all being finalized, what we really want to do is have you guys focus on the experience, what people have experienced in the past, and really keep an eye on whether or not this is something that you'd like to pursue in the future, if it aligns with your professional development goals, and start thinking about preparing your potential application material, mostly like your resume. Again, we're not going to get into a ton of details about the programs today. We're focusing on the experiences, but be on the lookout for future sessions, because as details are finalized, we will have information sessions about each of our national leadership programs, where we'll get to dive into all those specifics. And I do want to reiterate, like Elizabeth said, if you've got questions or thoughts, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and Elizabeth will try to get back to you on those. At the same time, if there's questions that we don't get answered, we'll collect those and we'll make sure to get answers out to you. All right. So the two programs that we want to talk about today. First up is the Emerging Leaders Program. Now, you may have had leadership experience in the past prior to joining the VA, but if you're a GS 7 through 9, this is the developmental program that we use to introduce folks to leadership concepts specific to the VA, specific to the government, right? And we really look at providing you an opportunity to network, connect, work on those self-leadership skills, right? Being as effective and efficient as you can be, and building that potential for you to serve in a leadership role down the road. So as I mentioned, the target audience for ELP is GS 7 through 9, and that applies when you're actually doing the application. You have to have at least a year with the VBA and have been deemed fully successful or better on your most recent performance evaluation. Endorsement by your supervisor is required. That's one of the steps in the application process. They will evaluate you and provide their endorsement or lack thereof, right? So that's, hopefully you have a healthy relationship, positive relationship there. And you can't be subject to any pending disciplinary actions, right, within the last year. Applicants must commit 2 to 3 hours per week to the coursework involved with ELP. And I think we'll hear some discussion on that when we get in with the panelists. Okay, so we have two ELP graduates in our panel, but we're also going to cover our other program. Second program is the LEAD program, Leadership Enhancement and Development. Now, LEAD is targeting the GS 10 through 12 folks. So that's where you fall, or you have friends who fall in that arena, who are thinking about potential leadership. LEAD is the program for them, right? We're looking to prepare folks to be capable of stepping into that frontline, first line supervisory position, that first step into leadership and management. And it's a more involved program, a little bit more advanced in terms of the content from ELP. Applications are very in-depth, right? But you have to have, again, 1 year, at least 52 weeks with the VBA, and you must have been deemed fully successful or higher on your last two most recent performance appraisals. Okay. Now, programs have varied in length based on time constraints. ELP usually runs between 3 and 6 months. LEAD runs between 6 and 9 months. But since, as I mentioned earlier, dates and specifics and funding are not set, at this point in time, I can't really give you specifics, but that's the gist of those two programs. Now, the panel today, I'm super excited to introduce 3 panelists. Miss Lynn Marie Pipkin, or Lynn. She's a program specialist with the San Diego Regional Office, and she graduated from ELP in 2021 and then our LEAD program in 2022. Also joining us is Miss Julie Newberry. Julie is a management analyst for the Veterans Service Center at the Providence Regional Office, and she is a graduate of our LEAD program in 2024. And then finally, Dr. Carol Matthews is training consultant with the WARTAC program in Central Office, and she is an ELP graduate in 2022 and a LEAD graduate in 2024. So, ladies, thank you for joining me. I'm so excited to have you guys and to get into a discussion of your experiences with ELP and LEAD. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen so that we can have a conversation here.
Thank you, Mr. Stoops.
All right, we're just going to jump straight in. So, Julie, let's start with you. What motivated you to apply for the LEAD program, and how did the program compare to your expectations going in? And then we'll move to Lynn and Carol. And when we get to you guys, if you can discuss both LEAD and ELP in your case. But Julie, let's start with you. What motivated you to apply, and then how did it compare to your expectations?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here. My original motivation and ultimate motivation for applying for LEAD were a little bit different. I think it began with, as I call them, the leadership dream team of the Providence RO. I've been fortunate enough to work under very strong, dynamic servant leaders who very early on were prepping and encouraging me to grow myself personally and professionally. And honestly, I didn't think I'd have a problem getting into the program until I didn't. So it was a very humbling experience. So my motivation then became the resiliency and determination to get in. And it took me, I think, the third time I finally get into the program. As far as the expectations, far exceeded, like, wonderful experience. The personal and professional networking relationships you'll gain from coming here, as well as learning so much about VBA as a whole, from a more global perspective, is just the best part for me.
It's awesome. And just one side comment on having to apply multiple times. I actually know an executive director who applied for one of our national leadership programs, and he applied 3 times before he got in, but he continues to serve as an executive director. So programs are competitive. Not getting again, it's not the end of the world, right? Perseverance is important. All right, Carol, how about you?
I'll start with the ELP because I did that program first. At that time, I was working with VHA, and I was in an administrative role, and I would get done with my work really early, and I needed something to challenge me. I volunteered to lead a project, and that was great. And one of my early mentors saw the potential, and she recommended that I apply for emerging leaders. That program was very diverse. It had a lot of key components that helped me prepare for a higher program. It was more self-directed. It wasn't necessary. You didn't have to interact a lot with the other program participants, but it was very beneficial. I finished that in 2022. As far as lead goes, I listened to the introductory program and the activities and the leadership that was going to be involved. I saw that as a great professional development opportunity. So I discussed it with my manager, and he discussed it with the regional director, and they agreed that it would be great for not just myself, but for the region where I worked in Los Angeles at that time. And what I found in terms of expectations, I agree with Julie as far as, the benefits personally and professionally were great. But one of the key things that I took away was the personal dedication. That's extremely essential because of the outside commitment outside of the work time that they allot for you for the program. So that's what I would encourage people to be mindful of.
Yeah, there's to take lead to the next level, it requires effort, and potentially you're going to have to spend some time, especially a lot of those projects become, you become really invested in them, right? So yeah, you might have to work on that PowerPoint or that thing outside of work, but yeah, that's why they're tough programs at times. Okay, Lynn, how about you? Your experience with ELP and lead, the motivation, I guess, and then how did it measure up to your expectations?
Well, my motivation for doing ELP and lead is derives from the personal belief that I can always better myself. I actually started in the government as a GS3 with a commissary, and I could not move up. There was no way for me. There was no way for me to move up. I'd have to wait several years, or I'd have to leave the agency. So I did leave the agency and found another job with the government, with the Department of the Navy, and I found the same thing. But when I came into the VA in 2018, there were so many opportunities that were given to me that I took the opportunity to do them. And then, as the lady said, for the expectations, I have nothing else to add. It definitely exceeded my expectations, and the mentorship and your connections that you get from lead and ELP is definitely worth doing. And that's all I have for that.
Awesome. Okay, so if you guys don't mind, think back to your experiences in the programs. Can you share a specific moment or project during your program experience that significantly shaped your leadership style or your perspective on leadership? Let's actually go right back with you, Lynn.
I want to say that a precise moment that really shaped my leadership style was definitely the mentorship. Being connected with somebody in the VA that's in a higher position, that's outside my organization, definitely opened my eyes to all the possibility that the VA had to offer as an agency, as well as me learning from their mistakes, learning their career paths, their career styles, or sorry, their leadership styles, what works for them and what doesn't. And my mentor definitely saw potential in me that I didn't see in myself. She pushed me to do things I wouldn't do. So when I was in lead or ELP, I was very reserved. I just did what I had to do. But when I was in lead, she pushed me and motivated me to reach out to several SESers, staff offices, business lines, and talk to their leadership and see what worked for them. I would not have reached out to them and asked for a virtual 15 meet and greet if it wasn't for her. So that definitely shaped my impact.
Yeah, that's great. Mentoring relationships are a part of all of our national leadership programs to some extent, just for background for folks. And yeah, in our lead program, you have an ongoing mentor that you're assigned and work with and meet with a number of times. And yeah, so that's good. That's a great example. How about you, Carol? a specific moment or project during the program that impacted your leadership style or your perspective?
Okay, I have two. With ELP, it was the 360 review. We had an opportunity to send that out, and it went out to people at all levels, below, at our level, above our level, people who had worked with us in different businesses. And that gave us feedback. It highlighted our strengths and our weaknesses. It was an eye opener because it's anonymous and they can tell you, you don't know who it came from. So it gives you really, really honest feedback. And for me, I applied that to, my daily work. I think it improved my effectiveness. It also strengthened relationships that I had, working with people. And also it redefined my leadership presence. With LEAD, when I think back to that, it was our primary group project. You deal with people of different personalities, different time zones, different levels of availability. One of the key tools that they used and was very beneficial was the DIS assessment, because that gave us a real clear picture of our personality type and how we operate. And I'm a high D. And then I could see how I interacted with other team members. And normally I would be the take charge type, but this allowed me to sit back, listen to other people's ideas, see what they had to contribute, and take all that in before I automatically just took the lead as I typically would. And I believe that strengthened our collaboration and it enhanced our overall results and our end result with our team project. So I try to always apply those insights in my everyday work now.
Excellent. I love that example. Yeah, those lead projects, that's those capstone projects. You got to work on the team. You got to navigate. I mean, just like you said, all the time zones, everything. It's crazy, and yet it's really you all become really invested, right? And so I can see how that would shape. And I love that you mentioned DISC because it's such an important tool. Julie, how about you? Specific moment or project for you that shaped your leadership style or perspective?
I'd like to speak with regard to perspective. I think one of the most brilliant and fun ways that we were taught lessons was the way humor was brought into it. For example, we were told to, quote, fix our faces. And it stuck with me. And it was so important because what I took from it was we may not always see the bigger picture. We may not have all the pieces to the puzzle or all the information in front of us. But irrespective of that, when you make the decision that you want to step into a leadership role, eyes are on you. And I tend to be a person who wears my heart on my sleeve. And if I'm upset, you know I'm upset. So I made it a point to realize in this perspective, if you're going to step in a leadership role, you set the tone, you set the culture, regardless of what decision has just been made. It's up to you to have a positive impact when you go back to your office to support it. So that's what I took from it.
That is fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Julie, we're going to stay with you for this next one. Were there any specific challenges that you faced while participating in LEAD? And maybe what steps did you take to overcome them?
So on my own team, we had two specific, pretty big challenges to overcome. About 6 to 8 weeks into our group project, one of our teammates was offered an incredible opportunity for a temporary overseas assignment. But in doing so, she would have to decide, is she going to continue with LEAD or take the assignment? And while we all supported and agreed her taking the assignment was the right call, it put us in a pickle. So we then had to pivot and we had to figure out, how are we going to divvy up the work? How are we going to pick up from here? So it was just more a matter of being more organized, taking turns with different roles, having a plan in place. The other thing that happened, which was more significant, you're on a timeline with your big project. 3 times when we thought we had the solution, to no fault of ours or the other division. These projects are real life problems being solved in the organization. They kept getting implemented. So we thought we had the solution, and then we find out a week or two later, an email comes out, oh, we can't use that. Now what are we going to do? And there's a lot of time and pressure and energy put into your project. So the way we overcame that is we joined forces with these people that were implementing them and said, okay, you've gotten us here. Help us get to the finish line. What would you like to see happen? Where could we take this and improve it? And our sponsor and facilitator were really instrumental in helping us stay focused and not be discouraged, and tell us, look, don't reinvent the wheel, build upon what you know right now. So it helped us, complete the project successfully.
Love that. Yeah, just for some perspective for the audience, if you're not familiar, the LEAD program has a capstone project that essentially you're assigned to a team, and there are issues, VA issues that have been identified, and they come through and go through OFO for their review, and yeah, these are things we weren't really want to see or work on, and so when those are approved, you're divided up into groups, and those are handed out, and there's people that submitted those ideas originally are assigned as a project facilitator or mentor, and then you work to find a real solution to that issue that the VA is facing. And yeah, in Julie's case, there were other segments already working on solutions, so they had to look at incorporating some of that. But yeah, it's a real world learning experience, right? That's not just classroom. You're actually tackling a real problem that the VA faces, and so that's cool. That's cool. Appreciate you sharing. All right, let's go with Carol. How about you? Specific challenges you faced in either LEAD or ELP, and then what'd you do to overcome them?
Okay. There weren't any with ELP, but I'll piggyback on what Julie said, because it was definitely, we had a couple group projects, but the larger capstone did present challenges because all of us were in different time zones. People had a lot of competing priorities and obligations with their primary jobs. And one of the things that we did, we had, and this was an instruction, but every month we had a leader. So each one of us took the lead on a particular month. And that proved to be an advantage. What we did, our remedy for the problems, people couldn't attend a meeting, they had this or that going. So what we did was we leveraged technology. We recorded all the meetings, and then whoever was in charge that month would reach out to the people who couldn't attend, get their input, get their feedback, and make sure to incorporate that in our meeting, and then follow up later on. And we also, communication, wow, proactive communication is extremely important. Again, that speaks to your ability to deal with people from different leadership styles. So I would say patience, flexibility, extending grace, they're all essential, and those are going to help the participants move their projects forward and ultimately make them be successful, not just with the project, but with the program.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. You were adapting and finding ways to overcome, which means you were learning to do the things you need to do to be a leader, right? You've got to adapt and overcome in those situations. You've got to extend grace at times, and sometimes you got to accept grace. That's great, for sure. Thank you. Lynn, what about you? Challenges you faced and ways you overcame?
I think if you ask any graduate, it's always going to be very similar, just the balance of work and the leadership programs. As is previously stated, you're working with people, all different personalities, all different time zones. Some have high demanding jobs where they're working in the front office for their regional office, or they're public facing, dealing with veterans. So that definitely was a challenge, just being in different time zones and balancing everything. But the way that I overcame that was just communicating with my team what I needed and how they could help me. And for me, I'm very, like Julie said, sometimes you wear your heart on your sleeve. So I do the same. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I think about others. So when I'm in public contact for ELP, I can't help out because I'm in meetings and I just see the veterans stack up, and it gave me a lot of anxiety, and it just took me talking to my coach, my team, and just letting them know, like, hey, I'm sorry. And then telling me, like, Lynn, we support you, we understand, you're okay. And just hearing that reassurance definitely helped me overcome just the work-life balance, just to know that I'm one person and I'm doing the best I can. And that's all I have to say.
Perfect. All right. How has your participation in ELP or LEAD impacted your tenure with the VBA? Either had an impact on your career trajectory or opportunities, both formal or informal, have I guess, has it had an impact? And if so, what have you seen? Oh, sorry. I should tell which one of you is right. Let's start with Carol. Carol, how about you?
Thank you, Stoops. Yeah, definitely. Both ELP and LEAD, they increase my visibility with the VBA. You never know who's going to watch a meeting or participate. We had SESers reviewing our capstone projects, so the visibility is extremely high. And since the projects that we worked on were real life programs, the people in those divisions were looking and participating and reacting to our solutions. So the opportunities outside of your primary job are enormous. For example, this panel is a good example. Since I've been with the VA 5 years, I've been promoted 4 or 5 times. Since 2022, out of ELP 4 times, and since I graduated from LEAD once, and expecting another promotion in December. So I would say that the skills and the networking opportunities and the people that I've met have had an enormous impact on me with both programs. And I can't say that I wouldn't have done it without, but I think what I learned, I applied, and it made a big difference. The visibility is enormous and essential for leadership growth.
It's fantastic. We shouldn't have started with you. That was like, that was huge. So, but yeah, that's awesome. Let's jump up to you, Julie. How about you? How has it had an impact? Again, it doesn't have to be formal opportunities, can be informal opportunities or exposure, but how did your experience in LEAD have an impact?
I think for me, it's realizing that there's more than one way to lead. And what I mean by this is I started in 2020 and my 5-year plan was I'm going to be a coach by 2025. I started out as a pre-DVSR, then I moved on to being a rater, then I became a management analyst, and then I wasn't so sure what I wanted to do. And so being in the LEAD program really helped me refine what do I want for me at this point in time and long term. I've had opportunities since graduating LEAD where I have served as a mentor in the Virtual Aspiring Supervisors program. I've been a mentor in the PA&I program. We have a local Quest program where I was given the opportunity by my AVS Sam Jacob to not only serve as a mentor, but to teach some of the lessons. And my lesson was on finding the can. And we also mentor at the local high school where we are now. I also think I work alongside as a management analyst, all of the coaches, supervisors, directors, and I can help lead and inspire, even though I'm technically not in a management role at this point in time.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Julie. And I want to reiterate for the audience as well. With ELP and LEAD, these programs aren't targeting necessarily current supervisors. It's possible you're an assistant supervisor and qualify for LEAD, but the majority of applicants are not supervisors currently, and success at the end of the program looks different for different folks, right? For some folks, they do transition into a leadership role. For others, maybe that means you learned how to lead where you are or expand your skill set as a leader, but you find that actually being in a supervisory role maybe isn't what you prefer to pursue, right? And that's okay as long as you're still learning to lead, just like Julie talked about. So that's fantastic. Thank you. Lynn, how about you?
I will say that my participation in ELP significantly prepared me to become a strong candidate for lead. Other than that, I don't really have much to say. The ladies hit the nail on the head.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, our programs, I mean, there's a real vested interest, and I think you guys have mentioned it a few times with you never know who's going to be there or who's going to attend meetings or who's going to be involved as a project sponsor. So there's a lot of exposure to a lot of folks who, you know, will be hiring or will be looking for instructors or will be looking for mentors in a program. So yeah, it's a great opportunity to get that exposure to maybe build those relationships. But again, you only get out what you put in. So you guys all put time and effort into building those relationships and doing those projects, and that's where you do see an impact. All right. Another question here, and I'm going to start with you, Lynn. You've got a bunch of people here on the call that may or may not be applying for ELP or LEAD. What advice would you give them as future participants to help them get the most out of their experience in either ELP or LEAD?
I will say there's two key components for me. Engage actively. Like you said, what you put in is what you're going to get out. If you're not raising your hand and you're not stepping up and speaking up, you're not going to get that visibility. So definitely engage, read everything that they tell you to, ask questions if you don't understand, and definitely utilize being in LEAD or ELP and network. And then the second component is just staying persistent. You may not get in the first time, you may not get in the second or third, like it was previously stated, but just keep trying, learn, ask for feedback. What can you change? And staying persistent, and no matter what you do, whether it's a leadership program or your job, is really a key component. And just being a great leader as well as a great person. Learn from your mistakes and just keep trying, pivot. But yeah, just those two components. I wish everyone the best of luck with their journey in the VA.
So thank you, Lynn. Carol, how about you? You give them advice. What
Okay.
advice would you give?
Well, a few things. One, I would say if you're going to apply to the program, you definitely want to have a mindset of growth. You want to be very flexible because people have different motivations for entering these programs. But if you decide to enter either program, I'll tell you, it'll be well worth it. My primary advice would be, somebody say, "Oh, you're so lucky. You get everything you apply for." Guess what? It's not luck. I'll leave you with saying that Oprah said, it's, popular. It's luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So I would tell you, prepare, plan, prepare, be active. Don't wait for someone to tell you what to do. To be a participant is not luck. It's, get, like you mentioned before, getting your resume together, networking, as Lynn mentioned, extremely important. You're building your brand. People want to know who you are. Who is this person? Where have they been? That networking is so, so, so important. And for me, a really key is lifelong learning. We have our TMS classes that we're required to take, and people do, just what they have to. I say take charge of your own, progress. Make a leadership development plan, decide where you want to go and how you're going to get there. Look at the jobs you're interested in. What does it require? What's the main ingredient that they're looking for? And if you don't have those skills, get them, and you get them through lifelong learning, through training, and it's not ever required. It's something that you have to do beyond the minimum requirements. So be prepared to put in the extra work, network, do what you have to do to set yourself up for success.
Love that. I love that. I want to highlight a couple things there that I think are really important in that preparation process. Speaking to your supervisor and or your director, if you have that opportunity, about this opportunity, about potentially pursuing a leadership program, is really important. I think that'd be great, in addition to working with your resume and making sure you're on point. And I love what you said about lifelong learning. I tell you, one of the most off the wall interview questions I got in applying for a position, It said, what are 3 things you've done to develop yourself, not because somebody else told you to, in the last 6 months? I said, well, hey, it's a great question. Well, I did read I read a book recently about leadership development that I just read because I want to write, but it's a great question. And if you're not thinking about that kind of thing and you're not investing in yourself, you're not preparing. So I love that. Julie, sorry, I'm rambling. I'm getting to you. So what about you? What advice would you give to potential future participants in ELP and LEAD?
I think there are 2 pieces of advice that are very important, and someone in the chat just picked up on this when she was saying, get used to being comfortable being uncomfortable. And the second piece of advice would be have the support of your leadership in your tribe. And what I mean by that is I literally had my boss, Jesse, downloading the Uber app for me, checking in when I was at the airport. I was petrified of traveling, but my desire and goal to succeed and be in this program was more than my fear of getting on a plane, knowing how to use the Uber app, being in a foreign place, not knowing anybody. So like, he was there for me, and having his support was the difference between me having a better experience than probably if I didn't have that support. Equally so, my director, EJ, when we had the capstone project and it was coming up, he threw me in front of the staff meeting. I was totally uncomfortable. It was the best thing he could have done for me. He knew that he had to make me uncomfortable, and I had to get used to putting myself in environments and situations and around people I was not used to doing. It's the only way you grow. My other AVSCM, Sarah, like one of my biggest cheerleaders since day one. I remember sitting in her office 2 weeks after being hired. I didn't even have confidence or believe in myself. And she was saying to me, you're one of the best VSRs we have here, but you don't believe it. It's going to get in your way of your career here. And having that support from day one is very important. So if you're thinking of applying to this program, have your support system, have your leadership, and just tell yourself it's okay to laugh at yourself. It's okay to feel uncomfortable. The only way you're going to not be uncomfortable is putting yourself in that uncomfortableness enough times until you overcome it. You meet the challenge.
That's fantastic. I think of the analogy of the muscles, right? So you want to build muscle, you actually, when you lift weights, you tear the muscles, right? You stress the muscle. They actually tear and they build back stronger. Well, it's the same thing with our leadership skills, with our brains, right? You got to be in uncomfortable positions. You got to stress yourself in order to grow and make progress. So that's fantastic stories. Good stuff. Great insights, guys. We're doing great on time. Kind of walked through all of these questions that we, kind of prepared on the front end. I do want to ask, where are you now, and what are you considering for future opportunities? Are you looking at another leadership program that you might be pursuing, or what's your next step in your self-development? How about I say that? Putting you on the spot. Julie, how about you?
Right now I'm really enjoying mentoring, and I might be biting off more than I can chew because I'm presently mentoring like 4 different people right now, but I love it. And I think it's so important to pay it forward. Like I said, I am who I am because of like mainly 5 people. It's Adam, Jacob, Sarah, Jesse. Those are the people that have been in my tribe. They're strong leaders. Most of them, if not all of them, have been through LEAD, LEAP, ADDP, SMT, all of these programs. So when I'm looking at them and looking at my career, granted, they've all been here a lot longer than me. I'm going on my 6th year. I love my job. I'm a management analyst. We are like the golden ticket. It's almost like the Wizard of Oz. You pay no attention to the man behind the screen and the curtain. And like, we get to work with management, but we're not quite there. So like, I'm happy where I'm at. Could I be a better MA? Yes. And that's what I'm working on, growing my analytical skills. I work a lot with PA and I now, and that helps me. Will I eventually be in management? Yes. Will I be in management today? No. But I think having had this experience prepares me and helps me realize where do I want to see myself next year, 5 years, 10 years. So I'm always open to opportunities, and I think it's good to get feedback from your leadership. And I think we're in a really great opportunity right now as we're talking about succession planning and what is the future of us here. There's so much opportunity for us. So I think that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I love that. It's a hard thing to translate right there, because you look at hiring freezes and you think there's no mobility right now, except that you have to know that it's all coming, right? We have, if not, we have a succession planning problem, right? We've lost quite a few folks and people taking the dirt and everything. It's time to invest in yourself for sure, right? Because there will be opportunities, but what I also love the flip side of that, is that that's not your focus. You said focusing on being the best management analyst that you can be. Like the role you're in, own the role you're in, improve yourself in the role you're in. I'm going to tell you, if I'm doing interviews, I look for people who talk about that. I look for people who talk about not climbing a ladder, but people who want to be the very best where they're at and make an impact in whatever way they can, right? And so that's really good. That's fantastic. Carol, how about you? What's next for you? Are there leadership programs you're looking at, or specific things you're doing to continue your development?
I'll agree with Julie. For me, I love training and development. I mean, unless plans change that I have nothing to say about, I plan to stay in training and development for another 3 or 4 years because I'm still learning. There's a lot of opportunities, even though we're in a hiring freeze. We're doing, course enhancements, learning other programs, new ways to teach and direct and help students learn and be more effective. So I plan to stay in this role. Unless the agency has other things that they want me to do. I would say don't get stuck on anything. Whatever you're asked to do, just do it and do the best you can. If I were to do something else outside of the VBA, yeah, I would probably go back to the hospital and either be a chaplain, which is of high interest to me. That's how I'd like to retire if I had a choice. And the other thing is a healthcare specialist, and that is a person that works with all the different departments in the hospital. And one of my master's degrees is in healthcare administration, so I have a high interest in that. But I would just say, don't be afraid to take lateral moves, because sometimes a lateral is a growth opportunity for you to learn other things. While it might not be a promotion or more money, it's a great opportunity to expand your skills and your network. So just be open. Don't be closed-minded, and just do the best you can where you're at, no matter what you're asked to do. And that's the attitude I take with everything I do. So I would agree with Julie on that.
That's great. And I love the comment about don't be afraid of a lateral. So I lateraled from RVSR into an assistant coach position when I first stepped into management. And that was probably the best thing I ever could have done. I enjoyed being a raider, but I wanted to challenge myself, and I wanted to improve the environment around me within the VBA. And moving into management gave me more of an opportunity to do that. And there were quite a few people. What are you doing? You're a good raider. Dro is next. Go this route. And I think this is what I want to pursue this. So I like that. Don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of the ladder. All right, Lynn, how about you? What's next for you? What are you doing in terms of developing yourself or leadership development? Anything you're considering or pursuing?
Like the lady said, stay pretty open to everything. And right now I'm just trying to be the best training manager I can for my regional office. I got promoted into that position right before the bandits happened. So we lost several key components: our executive director, an assistant director, another MA, and a change management agent. So it's been a pretty busy year, I think, for everybody. So right now I'm just trying to reconnect with myself, remember everything that I've learned in the previous years, and once everything opens back up, then I'll start looking into opportunities and talking to people. But I have no set path. I go where I'm needed or I feel like would be a good fit for me. And I think that's the best that you can do for yourself. And realize that it's not just you, it's also your family. Is it good for you to make this move for your family? Don't just move to a new position because that's what you want, more pay, or it's what you want. You have to realize that you have your family with you, and if it's a good fit for both of you guys or multiple.
Perfect. Well, ladies, thank you so much for joining me today, for having this discussion. I hope that folks on the call have gotten some insights into your experiences, the difficulty, the challenges of our leadership programs, but also the value inherent there. And I can't imagine that they didn't see some wisdom here, because I certainly heard and saw it, and I really appreciate you guys sharing it with us. Thank you. Thank you for attending our programs, and thank you for joining us today to share.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Stoops, for having us. I appreciate you looking back, and maybe year after next, we'll see you in LEAP.
We will see. I would love it. I would love it. All right, with that, Elizabeth, I am prepared to hand it back over to you. And again, I'll just say thank you to the audience, and thank you to our presenters, and thank you to you, Elizabeth, for giving us this opportunity to share.
Wonderful, of course. And once again, thank you to the panel members and for all of you for being here. I want to put that survey link I mentioned in the chat, and I will be sending out an email after this to all of those that had attended the call, and that email will contain links to our ELP SharePoint and our LEAD SharePoint. So I would encourage you to keep an eye on those links for future program updates. If you are interested in exploring the program further, that's where the information will be shared. We will also work to get it disseminated through the channels. So hopefully you'll get it via email as well. But I just wanted to make this a proactive step that you could take, is by checking out those SharePoints. So look for that email. That will also contain the survey link here. And, please, I'm seeing Julie putting comments in the chat that she's open to talk if you have questions. So we, as the leadership and development division, myself, Elizabeth Pravat, and Jonathan Stoops, we're happy to answer questions as well. But as I mentioned, we will have once we get those dates finalized, be on the lookout for a future session that will go into depth about the process of applying. So don't get hung up if you don't feel like you don't know what your next step is, because that information is yet to come. So like I mentioned, keep an eye out on the SharePoint and your emails that will have those announcements. But anyways, please feel free to complete that survey link that I placed in the chat, and look out in your emails. But with that, that concludes our event for today, and we appreciate your time and attendance. So have a great day.